Okay, welcome back, everybody. So we learned about lists today, and so hey, Ruby, what is an element? Are you there? I think you're muted.
Sorry, I
It's
keep
okay.
on forgetting to unmute myself. An element is the values that make up a list.
Right. So a list is made out of elements, right? It's a list of elements, and we've seen them before when we were playing around with words, right? And now we're playing around with something else. So, Tara, what kinds of things can elements be?
It can be integers, strings, floats.
That's true. And did you know that an element, and we're going to learn this later, but an element can also be a list itself, so you can actually have a list inside of a list? Whoa, right? So lists can basically any sort of thing that can be in Python can be in a list, including a list itself. So lists are very versatile. They allow us to store things and to process things. Jessica, so how do you go if you want to do something with each element in a list? How do you do that?
Well, you just, or everything that's in the list?
Yeah, if you want to go
like
through, say, and print everything in a list, or you want to add everything in a list, how do you go through a list?
You can do a loop.
You can do a loop, right? And so if I share my screen here, so here we have something from there, right? And so we can just say for F in flowers, right? And that's just saying, as we go through the list, set F to be each of the things that's in the list, right? And we can add new things to the list. I don't know what other kind of lists of flowers are there. Geranium. Of course, I don't know how to spell geranium, right? So now, what do we do if we want to delete something from a list? We saw two ways, didn't we? We can take a list and we can say what? Remove. And I can remove the tulip. Right? And so now, if we print the list again, let's see, oops, it always helps if you complete your lines. There we go. Tulips disappeared because we took it out. That's a way, so we can, if we can name an object in a list, we can remove an object from a list. This shows us that lists are mutable, right? We can change them. They're not like strings. Strings can't be changed. We could also remove tulips using this del thing, which is a horrendous syntax. It's got to be something weird that somebody did at some point in the life of Python. But I can say delete. What? How do I use delete?
You identify the position of like an element that you want to delete.
Right. So what do I type next if I want to delete tulip?
2.
2. Well, don't I have to tell where to delete it from? Which?
Yeah, you have to put the name of the list before the 2. Sorry.
That's okay.
And then put it in brackets, the 2.
So we're going to do it kind of like it's a lookup, right? So there we go. We deleted tulips a different way. How do we add something to a list? Like, what if I want to add geranium a different way? Anybody?
You can either append or insert.
Right, so I can say append geranium. Let's get rid of this stuff. And I print it. Oops. And we see it's in the list, right? So I can append. We can also do an insert, but insert's a little different. What does an insert do?
It adds it to the list, but it at a certain position.
Right, so I can give a position. I can say at the second position, force geranium into the list. So when we do this, we see that geranium is now the number 2 item, right? Because we always start with 0, 0, 1, 2, and it pushed everything else down. So lists are dynamic. We can make them grow and shrink, right? Now, what I'm going to do, we may revisit this, but what I want to do is if we go here, we have a couple of things that I think we have these 2 different things. Actually, I need to refresh this. Emily Dickinson lists and more Emily Dickinson. I would like you to open this up, and this is really going to help you for the, if you follow along, this will really help you. I don't know why it looks like this, but yeah, this is not clickable, so we're just going to have to make a new tab. Sorry about that. But if you go to this program that I made and Emily Dickinson words, so open that up and fork it. Okay, I apologize that this wasn't a list. Actually, I can fix it so it's a list here real quick. I mean, not a list, a link. Okay, update. All right, so now you can actually click that. So here we have something, as we've seen before, we have all of Emily Dickinson's poems. There's not all of them, but some of them. And then I have 2 routines, okay? The first routine is a routine that if I pass it a string, it goes through and removes all the punctuations. We saw that before. The second routine uses files that we know about. It opens up, I pass it a file name, it opens up the file name, and it says for every line in the file, remove the punctuation from the line, make the line lowercase, split it into words, which now turns it into a list, and then I go through the words in the list and I'm going to print them. And so I call that get words. And when I run this, notice all of the words that are in Emily Dickinson are printed out. But let's do something cool, okay? We always have to do something cool. So we've read the words, let's put them into a list, okay? So instead of printing them, what I'm going to do is I'm going to make get words start out with an empty list. We'll call it list of words, and I'm going to make it be an empty list. The way you make an empty list is just 2 brackets, okay? So this makes a list with nothing in it. And then instead of printing the words, as I go through the file, removing the punctuation, making it lowercase, splitting it up, putting the words, splitting it up into words, and then going through each word, what I'm going to do is I'm going to say list of words dot append, and then I'm going to put word in there, right? And so now when I'm done with this loop, I'm going to say return list of words, right? So now when I get words, I'm going to say list is equal to get words list of words, because what I'm going to do here now is I'm calling this function, I'm passing it the name of the file. This function is going to go through the file, build a list, and return the list. So if I print list, I should have a list. There it is. It's a big list with all the words. Isn't that nice? Now, what if I wanted, though, to build a list of only the unique words, not all the words, just the unique words?
Professor, sure
yes.
how to find this REPL.
I'm sorry, what?
I'm not sure how to find this REPL.
Okay, so good question, thank you. So if you go into the class today, go down to December 21st, go to, December, where did that come from? March 25th, we have Emily Dickinson lists. Click on that. And then when you're in here, that's this link right here.
Oh, I see. Okay. I must have had an older version of the syllabus. Thanks.
So, right, so we have a list of words. Now, can we figure out if something's in a list? Well, it turns out we can. Watch this. We can say, we can do this, input flower, right? If I can, right, I can say F is equal to input flower, and then I can say F in flowers, I'm going to print F is in the list. Okay. Yeah, and then I'll do an else. Print. Sorry. Okay, so now watch this. Flower, I type in, Kenyan, and it says sorry. I type in Daisy, and it says, oh, I put quotes around this. I type in Rose. Rose is in the list. Peony. Peony is in the list, right? So I can use this. If something is in something else, that will return true if it's in the list. So I can do that here, right? Watch this. I could take that same code and put it over in my Emily Dickinson. Stop freezing up. Okay. And instead of flower, I can say word. And then I can say if word is in list, I'll get it eventually. So let's try this. Explain. Explain is in the list. Oops. Now my REPL seems to be not responding. That's great. Okay, word. Like we put in girl. Girl is in the list. Okay, we put in Kenyan. Sorry, right? So isn't that cool how I can have a big list of words and I can check to see something's in the function in the list or not. So let's do this. Let's only put a word into the list if it's not already in there. Can you think of how we might do that? In fact, I'm going to change the name of this function to get unique words. So here's where I append the word in. But can't I, before I put it in, can't I check to see if that word is in there?
Yeah, you want to check if it's not in there yet.
Right, so it turns out if word, I can say, it turns out I can insert the word not in there. So I can say if word not in list, well, not list, is not in word list of words, that means it's not in there, right? I'm only going to append it then. So now let's say list is equal to get unique words, and then I deleted that, so it's the name of my file here. Emily Dickinson.txt. Text, okay? And if I print this, it should be a unique look, okay? And so how can we check if it's unique or not? Well, what we could do is let's actually make two versions of this function. I'm going to make one version that gets unique words and one that gets all of the words, okay? So let's do this. Let's make list let's make list 1 be get the words and list 2 be get the unique words, okay? Let's print the length of list 1 and the length of list 2, because it turns out length works on lists. We haven't seen that before, but if we run this, we see they're the same. So it didn't work, obviously. Something didn't work.
Well, you have two lists, one.
Oh, right. Thank you. That was a really stupid error. Okay, so list 2 is the unique words. Still is not.
And you haven't changed the function yet. You haven't changed the function get words.
Oh, I didn't take this out. Right. I'm going to change this. I'm going to take this line out of get. Right. So now I'm not, get words doesn't make it unique. So there's 8,500 words versus 2,500 words. Now, one of the other things we could do to prove this is I could say print list 1 dot count. Remember we saw the dot count that tells you how many times something is in there? And let's count the number of times the is in there. 591. We can count the number of times girl is in there. 1. We can count the number of times, what? Tree is in there. 2. We can count the number of times boat is in there. Probably none, but we'll see. No, it is in there once. Fast. Isn't that kind of cool? Now, of course, if we did it on list 2, it would always only be 1. What if we put in a Kenyan? It's not in there at all. So this nice little piece of code allows us to find the number of unique words. Now, one last thing I'm going to do. Well, we have time. It won't necessarily be the last thing. Let's do this. What if we take the list of unique words, and before we return it, I say list of words dot sort. Oops. Turns out that will actually sort the list. And so let's get rid of this. Actually, I'll just comment this out because I'm not going to be using the results of this. So what if I take list 2 and I print it now? Okay, after I've sorted it. Let's see. Notice the list is in sorted order. Isn't that cool? Now, by the way, just for the fun of it, I can change this to list 1 And I can make this other one also return sorted if I'm so inclined. Dot sort. I'll just, no, that's not right. You can't do that. Sort doesn't return anything. It just changes the list it works on. List of words dot sort. Okay. So now we're going to sort the words in the, of course, okay. Clear, yeah. Now let's run it. It's not happy. Your internet connection is stable. So now look, there's lots of words in there multiple times, right? Because it's sorted them. Look at all the thes. Isn't this cool? How easy this is? Okay. So let's say we wanted to write a file of unique words. Well, now that I have a way of getting the unique words, I can write another function to write those words. So let's make a function called write list, and we're going to pass it a file that we want to write it to. Oh, and we got to pass it a list. What could we do here? We could just simply say for I in list. Well, before we do that, we've got to open our file, don't we? So I could say W file for write file is equal to open file name. Sorry, this thing's doing all this crap. So I can open a file up, and then I could say for I in the list, write, not write, W file, write, right? Because remember last time we learned how we could write something to a file. So what I want to write to the file is the word, but I also want to put it on a new line so they're not all lined up together. And then I can close. I can close W file, right? So now what I can do is in Emily Dickinson, I can call get unique words to get all of the unique words. And I can write list, my list to, comma, we'll call it unique.txt. That should open a file. Oh, that's not quite right. We have to make it a write file, remember, if we want to write to it. So this is going to open up a brand new file. It's going to go through the list and it's going to write them. So let's run this. There we go. Now, if we look over here, notice there's a new file called unique, and it has all of the individual words in sorted order. Isn't that cool? All right, so this is so what we did here again, to go back, what we did was, the whole point of this was to show you the process of how we could read, was to remind us as to how we could read all of the lines in a file, break it into words and remove punctuation, and then augment that by taking those words and putting them into a list, and then sorting that list. And then once we'd done that, well, and only putting them into the list if they weren't already in there for the unique words. And then finally, write those list of words out to a file, so we now have a list of unique words. If you guys have any questions at this point, what I'm going to do is post this into the chat link so you have a copy of this. This program, understanding this program, will be very helpful for the next project. In fact, pretty much everything you need to do in the next project will be, let me go into the chat. So you'll want to grab this and clone it. If you haven't already, I wanted to give you this actual one just in case, I guess I said unique, but anyway, that's going to bring you into here. You'll need to click on the main program here to get the file. Okay? Does anybody have any questions or anything else they want me to try to do with this? So notice this will work on any file. I could put any program in any, I could put any file in this thing, and I could run this program and get a list of all the unique words, right? In fact, watch this. This is actually worth showing. Just like hopefully everything is. So lab 4 is the president's word game. If we click on this link here, it didn't work. Okay, so I wonder if this is, I thought I fixed that. There it is, now it works. I had to refresh that. So here's all of the president's, so if we go to Joe Biden's recent one, here's his, we can collect all of this, copy it, go over to our new REPL, and I can add a new file, and we'll call it Biden.txt. I'll paste that in there, right? Now I can go back to my main program, and I can run this on Biden, right? And of course, it'll replace unique with a new one. We run it, and we look at the unique, and here is the sorted words from unique words from President Biden's speech. Kind of cool, huh? So for the lab, as you're working on it, again, you can use any code that I give you, you can reuse. So for example, I'm giving you this code. You can copy and paste it without attribution and then modify it, right? I'm giving you this function, remove punctuation. You can use that. And so for this lab, where's it at? Lab 4, again, what you're supposed to do is read in the words, pick 2 words for the person to try to guess which of those 2 words is more common. And then of course you have to be able to read in the words, you have to be able to count the words, right? We actually already know how to count the words, right? So if you have a list with all of the words in it, all of them, not just the unique ones, you can actually count the number of words. If you have a list that has all of the words in them, you can, and if you know the length of that list, you can pick a random number between 0 and the length of that list, and you can pick that word and have that be a random word that you present to the person playing the game. So what you're going to do is you're going to open up the president's address, you're going to read all the words into a list, and then you can pick a random words, you can show them to the people, let them guess, and then you can count the number of each of those words and then tell them if they got it right or wrong, right? So you should know everything you need to know to do this lab. Now I'm having you break it up into pieces. I give you the functions that I want you to write. You need to write each one of those functions, right? And they're all going to be based on lists. Okay, so it's 4 o'clock. You guys still with me? So